What's up, bookworms? Today, we're jumping into a fascinating and often unsettling corner of sports history, exploring the intersection of athletic rivalry, political maneuvering, and propaganda. Our guide for this deep dive is Toby C., writer's captivating book Cold War Games, Propaganda, the Olympics, and Us Foreign Policy. The Cold War, a battle for hearts and minds. Forget tanks and nukes for a moment. During the Cold War, the battle between the US and the Soviet Union was as much about ideology as it was about military strength. It was a global struggle for hearts and minds, a competition to convince the world that their way of life was superior. And as both superpowers ramped up their propaganda machines, they discovered a potent weapon already at their disposal: the Olympic Games. Soviet sport, a threat to US dominance. For the Soviets, sport was an extension of the state, a means to showcase the supposed superiority of their system and the strength of their athletes, all carefully crafted to promote communist ideals. This sports offensive sent alarm bells ringing in Washington. Those officials, already unnerved by the Soviet Union's growing influence in Eastern Europe, recognized the Olympics' potential to sway global public opinion, particularly among those who weren't necessarily interested in politics. The fear was that Soviet athletic dominance would be interpreted as a sign of communist superiority, a dangerous message in a world teetering on the brink of ideological war. The state-private network, a covert propaganda strategy, died tighter. The US government, however, faced a dilemma. Direct involvement in Olympic affairs would be met with accusations of politicizing sport, something the fiercely independent International Olympic Committee (IOC) vehemently opposed. The solution: a carefully constructed state-private network, a web of seemingly independent organizations, secretly funded and directed by the CIA. Groups like the National Committee for a Free Europe (NCFE) and the Hungarian National Sports Federation (ANSF) became key players in this network. They promoted anti-communist messages, provided aid to refugee athletes, and worked to undermine Soviet efforts to use the Olympics for their own propaganda purposes, all while maintaining the illusion of private initiative and distancing the US government from direct involvement. This clever strategy allowed the US to exert influence without appearing to violate the Olympic ideal of apolitical sportsmanship. Radio Free Europe amplifying the message. Radio Free Europe, RFA, the brainchild of the NCFE, played a crucial role in amplifying the message. Broadcasting behind the Iron Curtain, RFA cleverly used sports content to reach a wider audience and subtly promote anti-communist sentiment. They highlighted the achievements of refugee athletes, emphasized the state control of Soviet sport, and emphasized the supposed democratic character of US athletic organizations, all packaged within engaging sports news and commentary. The Melbourne Defection, turning athletes into propaganda symbols. The 1956 Melbourne Olympics, amidst the chaos of the Hungarian Revolution, became a turning point. Hundreds of thousands of Hungarians fled their country as Soviet tanks crushed the uprising. Amongst them were many athletes from the Hungarian national Olympic team, torn between their desire for freedom and their love for their homeland. This presented a unique opportunity for the US. C.D. Jackson, a key figure in the US psychological warfare program, who had previously overseen covert operations in Italy, recognized the potential propaganda value of aiding the defecting athletes. With the help of Sports Illustrated magazine, a publication secretly aligned with Jackson and the NCFE, a plan was hatched. Sports Illustrated played a crucial role in coordinating the escape of 38 Hungarian athletes and officials, securing them passage to the United States and orchestrating their resettlement. The athletes were then paraded on a nationwide freedom tour where they competed in exhibitions and gave interviews, all carefully managed to present them as symbols of resistance against communist oppression and living proof of the US's commitment to freedom. The Melbourne Defection was a propaganda coup for the US, demonstrating the allure of the American way of life and the fragility of the Soviet bloc. It was a story that resonated deeply with American audiences and one that the US information program eagerly exploited. Operation Rome, countering the Soviets on their own turf. The 1960 Rome Olympics presented another key opportunity. The FEC, sensing the potential for Soviet propaganda at the Games, implemented Operation Rome, a multifaceted plan to counter Soviet influence and reach out to the people of Eastern Europe. A key element of this operation was the establishment of an information center in Rome specifically for Polish tourists. This center offered free pamphlets, books, and magazines, organized sightseeing tours, and even provided a space to sell goods from Poland, all designed to counter Soviet propaganda about life in the West and foster a positive image of the US. The center was a huge success, attracting hundreds of visitors and generating positive coverage in the Western media. The FEC also orchestrated unofficial water polo matches for a stateless Hungarian team, the Hungaria Heimatlos, hoping to draw attention to the plight of exiled athletes and the restrictiveness of the IOC's rules. They further facilitated a press conference which highlighted the stories of those Hungarians who were competing for other nations in Rome, reminding audiences of the continued desire for freedom in Hungary. While ultimately unable to prevent another dominant Soviet victory operation, Rome was successful in promoting alternative narratives and establishing contact with individuals from the Soviet bloc, all under the radar of the IOC. Internal challenges and the persistence of politics. Despite its successes, the USS use of the Olympics for propaganda purposes was fraught with internal challenges. The IOC, staunchly resistant to any form of government interference, frequently clashed with us, officials over issues like amateurism, the inclusion of athletes from South Africa under apartheid, and the recognition of nations from the Soviet bloc. Furthermore, the rise of commercialization and the increasing influence of television complicated matters, further turning the Games into a lucrative business and fueling the debate over the future of the Olympic ideal. In conclusion, Cold War Games is a compelling reminder that the Olympics are never just about sport. They are a reflection of the world we live in, a stage where global power struggles, political ideologies, and national identities play out in fascinating and often unsettling ways. The US government's efforts to exploit the Games for propaganda purposes, while often covert and controversial, were a testament to the perceived power of the Olympics to shape public opinion. This strategic use of sport, often mirroring the practices of their Soviet rivals, reveals a complex and morally ambiguous aspect of Cold War history. What are your thoughts on the intertwining of sport and politics? Should the Olympics be a platform for political messages? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more fascinating journeys into the world of sports history.